So for my persuasive speech, I decided to go with the topic of poverty, and my specific purpose will be to persuade my classmates to act in reducing poverty and inform them of ways that they will be able to do that. So poverty does not discriminate, and obviously it does not have borders. Associated with the lack of education, high divorce rate, a culture of poverty, and one cause is also illiteracy overpopulation, epidemic diseases such as AIDS and malaria, and environmental problems such as a lack of rainfall in other parts of the world also play a part in poverty. So many of you can relate to going through tough times with family or even on your own since you've entered college. And imagine living under those same circumstances, only about 10 times worse, such as you're having to worry about when you would get, your next meal, and you're essentially living paycheck to paycheck with no extra spending money for any sort of social activities or anything like that. And so having been to these sort of areas and seen how extreme and saddening poverty can be, I know that this issue needs to be addressed and combated. So today I'll answer any questions you might have about poverty around the world and what causes poverty, what poverty can look like, and how many people are impoverished. So firstly, we will discuss how many people are considered impoverished in today's world. And the gap between the world's rich and poor has never really been wider. And while wealthy individuals are relishing in a lavish life of luxury, millions are being forced to endure an insufferable daily reality of poverty, conflict, and lack of food. And access to clean water is a big one. So for these disadvantaged people, the hunger is unrelenting and the desperation is overwhelming. So the next time for a drastic change has arrived, and it is up to you and I to make a difference before a significant proportion of the world's population drown in an ocean of poverty. So we must save lives. According to the United Nations on Poverty in 2018, shockingly, a child dies every 3 seconds from AIDS and severe starvation. So that's a very hard statistic to swallow. And on another note, specifically in the US, there were 38.1 million people in poverty in 2019, according to the US Census Bureau, which is approximately 1.4 million less than 2017. So while there are many factors in what can determine poverty, hunger is a major one, and hunger is a defining factor associated with poverty. So for a question, how would you feel if you were one of the 800 million people who went to bed ravenously hungry each and every night? So you would lay shivering, listening to the unbearable sound of your stomach crying out in starvation, while billions of individuals around the world binged on excessive amounts of food. How would you feel if you knew that the same insatiable people were squandering their surplus cash on unnecessary luxury items rather than donating just a few dollars to life-changing charities? It may just be spare change to us, yet it can feed an African family of 4 for over a week, according to the World Bank in 2019. For them, it's a matter of life and death. So the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organizations that about 815 million people of the 7.6 billion people in the world, or approximately 11%, were suffering from chronic malnourishment in 2016. So almost all the hungry people live in lower middle income countries, which are located in Africa and Asia. These numbers tend to fluctuate throughout the years since data wasn't always available, but they have increased in recent years. And as we know now that the number of people affected by poverty are higher than they should, and there are ways that we can all make a difference. So although we need to work to diminish world poverty, starting here in the US would mean we can make a huge difference. Increasing employment and creating jobs is a way that would tremendously reduce poverty. By voting in local and state elections for policies and people that will create jobs, you will have already contributed to the decrease in unemployment, which is directly linked to poverty. So another way would be to end the poverty tax. People living in low-income neighborhoods pay extra for almost everything, from food to car loans, and are dependent upon high-interest, payday loans because many banks won't serve poor neighborhoods. Poor people can also afford to save money by purchasing in bulk. And without access to capital, low income people can't save enough to invest in their education or job training. So investing in affordable, high quality childcare and early education is also a big way to sort of counteract poverty before it can even be a possibility for many in the future. And we can boost investments in Head Start and in childcare and development, as well as passing the Strong Start for America's Children Act, which essentially would invest in preschool and high-quality childcare for infants and toddlers, and home visiting services for pregnant women and mothers with infants, that sort of thing. This will help more struggling families obtain the childcare they need in order to work and improve their future economic status and their mobility of America's children. So, poverty has a major effect, obviously, on the lives of hundreds of millions of people around the world, especially in Africa and Asia, more so than anywhere else in the world. So I hope this has had many of you think of how looming this crisis is. I know we all hear this issue, pressed pretty regularly, and it still is a very significant issue in today's society, all over the world. So this issue needs to be addressed, not only by my classmates listening to this speech, but everyone that is able to make a difference. We can all play a part in the prevention of worldwide poverty, and we can all save lives.